The Super League's 48-hour revolution. May 2nd, 2021. Manchester United fans stormed Old Trafford, not to celebrate, to invade. Thousands breached security, occupied the pitch, and forced the postponement of a Premier League match against Liverpool. The first time fan protest had ever cancelled a top-flight English game. Days earlier, they'd broken into Carrington training ground, forcing the manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Darren Fletcher, and Nemanja Matic to speak some sense into them. Coincidence? Not even close. 2 weeks prior, Manchester United's ownership had signed a document that would place them among 12 founding members of a breakaway European Super League, a closed competition designed to replace the Champions League entirely. Participation guaranteed by brand value, not sporting merit. No relegation, no qualification. Just permanent membership for the elite, regardless of performance. Domestic leagues would continue, but Europe's most prestigious club competition would become a private members club. April 18, 2021. 12 of Europe's most powerful clubs had held a secret for months. At 9:30 p.m. UK time, they released a statement that detonated across global football. The European Super League existed. The fury that followed was explosive. Florentino Perez and Andrea Agnelli had architected what they considered inevitable evolution. Europe's elite generated the majority of UEFA's broadcasting revenue and commercial investment, yet faced the risk of missing Champions League qualification annually. Arsenal had missed it. AC Milan had fallen outside the top four. Even giants could stumble, and that uncertainty threatened revenue projections. Their solution eliminated market uncertainty, a closed competition ensuring financial stability for founding members while promising massive revenue distribution and long-term equity growth. Every calculation proved correct, except one. They'd forgotten what football actually means to people. Players and managers condemned the project publicly. Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Bruno Fernandes spoke against their own employers. Governments in England, France, and Spain threatened legislative intervention and regulatory action. But the decisive blow came from fans. Liverpool supporters massed outside Anfield. Chelsea's crowd physically blocked the team bus before a match. Arsenal fans gathered outside the Emirates demanding Kroenke's resignation. And Manchester United supporters, usually divided on everything, unified behind one message: this club doesn't belong to you. The Old Trafford invasion became the defining image. Not violence for its own sake, but desperation. Fans watching their clubs attempt to escape the very competition that had given their history meaning. By April 20th, all 6 English clubs had withdrawn. Italian clubs followed within hours. Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Juventus remained technically committed only because Spanish legal proceedings prevented immediate exit. The collapse came faster than anyone predicted. 48 hours from announcement to humiliation. The fascinating twist: UEFA's response absorbed the Super League's core business logic, just disguised it better. The reformed 2024-25 Champions League expanded to 36 teams, guaranteeing 8 matches per team instead of 6, locking in more revenue for participating clubs. 2 additional spots are now awarded to countries whose clubs collectively performed best in the previous season, rewarding leagues that already dominate European football. Italy and Germany earned these European performance spots for 2024-2025, sending Bologna and Borussia Dortmund to the competition despite finishing 5th in their domestic leagues. UEFA initially proposed something even more Super League-like. 2 spots based on individual clubs' historical performance over 5 years, allowing giants who missed qualification to enter anyway. That plan was scrapped after backlash in May 2022. But what survived still concentrates wealth among elite leagues, guarantees more matches, and reduces uncertainty. Everything the Super League wanted, just with better branding. The Super League died in 48 hours. Its logic was repackaged and approved within a year. The fans won the battle. The billionaires won the war. Bielsa's beautiful burnout at Leeds. Marcelo Bielsa arrived at Leeds United in June 2018, carrying a reputation that bordered on mythology. The 63-year-old Argentine had influenced a generation of managers. Guardiola, Pochettino, and Simeone all cited him as formative. Leeds had festered in England's second tier for 16 years, their Premier League exile feeling increasingly permanent. What Bielsa built over the next 4 years resembled a cult more than a football team. His training sessions became folklore immediately. Players arrived at 7 a.m. to find tactical presentations waiting, videos analysing opponents down to individual throw-in routines. Bielsa demanded man-marking across the entire pitch, relentless pressing for 90 minutes, and a physical intensity that seemed medically inadvisable. Stuart Dallas, a solid professional before Bielsa's arrival, transformed into a player who could operate in 6 different positions without compromising work rate. Leeds won promotion in 2020, playing football that felt genuinely dangerous. Their first Premier League season produced a 5-2 victory over Newcastle, a 3-0 win at Aston Villa, and a performance against Manchester City that left Guardiola visibly impressed. Bielsa became a deity in Yorkshire. Fans wore t-shirts bearing his face, chanted his name before kickoff. By the 2021-22 season, injuries mounted catastrophically. Calvin Phillips, Patrick Bamford, and Liam Cooper, structural pillars of Bielsa's tactics, spent months unavailable. The press that had overwhelmed opponents now left gaps opponents exploited ruthlessly. Teams learned that surviving Leeds' initial fury meant inevitable space appearing defensively. By February 2022, Leeds sat 2 points above the relegation zone. The board faced an impossible decision: loyalty to a transformative figure or financial survival. They chose pragmatism. Jesse Marsch arrived, implemented defensive structure, and kept Leeds in the Premier League through functional football that felt spiritually hollow compared to what preceded it. Bielsa's Leeds proved that some tactical visions burn too intensely to sustain. The human body eventually rebels against perfection. His experiment remains the Premier League's most beautiful failure, a reminder that football's highest expression often sacrifices longevity for brief, unforgettable intensity. Portsmouth's trophy to bankruptcy speedrun. May 17, 2008. Portsmouth defeated Cardiff City 1-0 at Wembley to claim the FA Cup. Nwankwo Kanu scored the only goal. Sol Campbell lifted the trophy as 40,000 Portsmouth supporters celebrated their club's first major honour in 69 years. The working-class coastal city had conquered English football's oldest competition. 26 months later, Portsmouth became the first Premier League club to enter administration, drowning in £135 million of debt, with unpaid tax bills and wages owed across the squad. The speed of collapse reveals modern football's most dangerous illusion, that success and sustainability can be separated. Between 2006 and 2010, Portsmouth changed ownership 7 times. Alexandra Gaidamak, son of Russian-Israeli businessman Arkady Gaidamak, funded the FA Cup run through high-interest loans his company's structure could barely service. Wages reached 85% of turnover, a ratio that financial advisors and accounting experts consider catastrophic in any industry. Suleiman Al Fahim purchased the club in August 2009 for £56 million. He lacked the funds. Ali Al-Faraj took control 2 months later through similar promises of Gulf investment capital that never materialised. Peter Crouch, Lassana Diarra and Glenn Johnson were sold not for squad improvement but to delay inevitable administration and manage cash flow by months. February 2010 brought financial collapse. HMRC filed for unpaid taxes. Players went unpaid for weeks. Small businesses that had serviced the club, laundry services, catering companies, local suppliers, absorbed losses they couldn't afford, some filing their own insurance claims and bankruptcy proceedings. Portsmouth entered administration with a 9-point deduction, effectively guaranteeing relegation. The redemption emerged slowly. Portsmouth Supporters Trust gained control in 2013, implementing supporter ownership through democratic governance and sustainable business practices. The club climbed from League Two back to League One through financially responsible operations and careful budget management. They still display the 2008 FA Cup at Fratton Park, a monument to both ambition's intoxication and the community resilience required when dreams outrun financial resources. Barcelona's La Masia obsession. Barcelona's 2010 Champions League semi-final starting 11 against Inter Milan featured 7 graduates from their La Masia academy: Valdés, Puyol, Piqué, Busquets, Xavi, Pedro and Messi. They represented something unprecedented in modern football: elite-level success through entirely homegrown talent development. The trap arrived when Barcelona began treating this moment as replicable rather than miraculous. After Pep Guardiola departed in 2012, every subsequent managerial appointment carried an impossible mandate: recreate the system without the personnel that made it function. Tito Villanova, Gerardo Martino, Luis Enrique, Ernesto Valverde each inherited a squad slowly diverging from the Guardiola template while being judged against that exact standard. The Neymar transfer in 2013 initially appeared philosophically acceptable. Barcelona publicly claimed he cost €57.1 million, though the actual cost exceeded €100 million when all payments were included. He fit the technical profile, understood positional rotation, and could operate within Barcelona's possession framework. When PSG triggered his €222 million release clause in August 2017, panic replaced strategic planning. Barcelona spent that windfall desperately and incoherently. Ousmane Dembele arrived from Borussia Dortmund for an initial €105 million, ultimately reaching €145 million with add-ons, and was injured within months. Philippe Coutinho cost an initial €121 million from Liverpool, potentially reaching €160 million, despite playing a position Barcelona already filled. Antoine Griezmann commanded €120 million through his Atletico Madrid release clause without fitting any tactical need. None resembled La Masia graduates in style, understanding, or patience. The financial consequences became existential. By 2021, Barcelona's wage bill consumed 95% of revenue, with some reports suggesting it actually exceeded 100%. An accounting impossibility sustained only through debt restructuring and emergency credit facilities. The club reported losses of nearly €487 million for the season and accumulated debt exceeding €1.2 billion. Messi left for Paris because Barcelona literally couldn't register his contract under La Liga's salary cap regulations, even after he agreed to halve his salary. Bayern's 8-2 demolition on August 14, 2020 crystallized the contradiction. Barcelona had spent over €400 million on Dembele, Coutinho and Griezmann, trying to purchase what had emerged organically from shared youth development and long-term investment. La Masia remained excellent at producing players. Barcelona had become incapable of building teams. PSG's Galactico era. When Qatar Sports Investments acquired Paris Saint-Germain in June 2011 through a private equity deal, the plan transcended sporting competition. PSG would become Qatar's cultural ambassador to Europe, a glamorous vehicle for soft power wrapped in football. The spending started immediately. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva, Ezekiel Lavezzi. Domestic dominance followed predictably. The 2017 summer transfer window redefined financial excess in sports markets. Neymar arrived from Barcelona for €222 million, shattering the previous record by over €100 million. Nearly a month later, PSG completed an €180 million deal, including bonuses, for Kylian Mbappe on initial loan before permanent transfer. In 2021, Lionel Messi joined on a free transfer after Barcelona's financial collapse. PSG assembled perhaps the greatest attacking trio in football history. The tactical problem became immediately apparent. None of them defended. Maurizio Pochettino, hired in January 2021 for his work building cohesive pressing units at Tottenham and Southampton, found himself managing a structural impossibility. Messi, Neymar and Mbappe operated as three individual planets, without gravitational pull toward collective defensive work. Domestic opponents couldn't exploit this. PSG's talent gap in League One proved insurmountable. Champions League opponents destroyed them systematically. March 2022. Real Madrid overturned a 2-0 aggregate deficit at the Santiago Bernabeu. Karim Benzema scored a devastating hat-trick, with all three goals coming in a 17-minute span during the second half. PSG's players seemed psychologically paralysed as Benzema's goals came in the 61st, 76th and 78th minutes. The following season, Bayern Munich eliminated PSG again through similar tactical superiority. Organised pressing, overwhelming individual brilliance. Messi left for Inter Miami in summer 2023. Neymar joined Al Hilal weeks later. Luis Enrique arrived as manager with mandate to implement actual team structure and tactical accountability. PSG finally won their first ever Champions League title in 2025. Demolishing Inter Milan 5-0 in the biggest final victory in the competition's history, only after abandoning the Galactico model and selling Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid. Talent aggregation without tactical sacrifice produces highlight reels, domestic titles, and European disappointment. PSG's expensive experiment confirmed what older Galactico projects at Real Madrid had already demonstrated. Teams require sacrifice that the highest-paid individuals rarely provide. Red Bull's football multiverse. Red Bull purchased Austria Salzburg in 2005 and SSV Markranstadt in 2009, renaming them Red Bull Salzburg and RB Leipzig respectively. They added New York Red Bulls and later Red Bull Bragantino in Brazil. By the 2010s, Red Bull operated something unprecedented: a multi-continental club network sharing scouting databases, tactical blueprints, and coaching philosophies, essentially creating a sports franchise model. Leipzig became the laboratory's showpiece. Promoted to Bundesliga in 2016, they reached the Champions League semi-finals by 2020 through systematic player development and tactical consistency. Ralf Hasenhüttl, then Julian Nagelsmann, implemented high-pressing systems built on vertical transitions and athletic profiles. Sadio Mane, Naby Keita, Timo Werner, Dayot Upamecano, Christopher Nkunku, Dominik Szoboszlai, all products of Red Bull's development pipeline. The paradox lived in their success rate. Red Bull's scouting identified talent before market prices inflated, maximizing return on investment. They developed players within a coherent tactical system. Then, inevitably, bigger clubs purchased those players at massive profit. Erling Haaland spent exactly one season at Salzburg before Borussia Dortmund activated his release clause. Leipzig consistently lost their best performers to Bayern Munich, Liverpool and Chelsea, creating a talent pipeline that generated revenue but prevented competitive stability. Red Bull built a development model so efficient it guaranteed their own competitive ceiling. They couldn't retain the talent they created because the system optimized for asset appreciation rather than long-term squad building. The intensity component created additional problems. Hasenhüttl left Leipzig due to contract disputes with football director Ralf Rangnick. Nagelsmann's pressing demands required squad depth that transfer sales constantly depleted. Jesse Marsch's Leeds United collapsed in 2021-22 under similar tactical principles. Evidence that Red Bull's football worked brilliantly until human bodies accumulated fatigue across full seasons. German fan culture rejected Leipzig entirely. Protests, boycotts, banners reading "No RB", opposition club supporters united against what they perceived as corporate football's most cynical expression. Red Bull had optimized everything except the emotional connection that makes clubs sustainable across generations. Arsène Wenger's Project Youth. Arsenal's move from Highbury to Emirates Stadium in 2006 seemed necessary for competing with England's wealthiest clubs. The £390 million project left Arsenal carrying £260 million in debt, requiring careful repayment and strict budget management. Arsène Wenger, facing financial constraints from a board demanding fiscal responsibility, transformed necessity into philosophy. Build through youth development, technical excellence, and patience. For several seasons, the approach produced genuinely exciting football. Cesc Fabregas arrived from Barcelona's academy at 16 and became Premier League captain by 21. Robin van Persie, purchased from Feyenoord, developed into one of Europe's most clinical strikers. The 2007-8 Arsenal squad averaged under 24 years old and played football that prioritised intricate passing combinations over physical directness. Then Roman Abramovich purchased Chelsea. Sheikh Mansour bought Manchester City through investment vehicles backed by sovereign wealth. Suddenly, Arsenal competed against clubs operating without financial constraints. Chelsea spent over £250 million between 2003 and 2006. City invested £500 million in 4 seasons after 2008. Arsenal sold their best players repeatedly. Fabregas returned to Barcelona. Van Persie joined Manchester United and immediately won the Premier League title. Samir Nasri and Gaël Clichy moved to City. The fourth place joke became Arsenal's defining characteristic. Wenger remained philosophically rigid as the Premier League's economic landscape transformed completely. He rejected defensive midfielders with physical presence for technical playmakers, leaving Arsenal vulnerable to teams that simply bullied them physically. Transfer windows became exercises in frustration. Unknown signings while rivals purchased proven internationals and made strategic investments. Wenger's final seasons brought increasing supporter unrest. Protests, banners demanding his departure, fractured fan relationships. The 2017 FA Cup victory, Wenger's 7th, felt elegiac rather than celebratory. He left Arsenal in 2018 after 22 years. Project Youth represented stubborn idealism, confronting economic reality. Wenger fought to preserve technical beauty. He lost comprehensively. But the experiment itself contained something increasingly rare: belief that football should transcend market forces. Qatar paid €1 billion to learn what amateur coaches know instinctively. Talent loses when it refuses to defend. Subscribe now, because the greatest stories are still to be told.